There is a particular kind of loneliness that has nothing to do with being alone. It's a feeling that can find you in the middle of a party, surrounded by laughter, a quiet, hollow ache in the center of your chest, a feeling of being invisible, of being on the outside, looking in. And so we try to fix it from the outside. We believe the cure for loneliness is another person. We fill our calendars. We swipe on dating apps. We search for the right community, believing that someone else holds the key to the empty room inside of us. But the room stays empty. The ache remains. And here is the counterintuitive truth that Carl Jung's work reveals to us. Your frantic search is not the solution. It is a symptom of a deeper problem. Chronic loneliness is not the pain of being abandoned by others. It is the pain of having abandoned yourself. You are running away from the one person whose company you desperately crave, your own. Today, we will stop running. We will not learn how to find another person. We will learn how to finally meet ourselves. We will walk the sacred, courageous path from the painful ache of loneliness to the profound, replenishing power of solitude. This is not a lesson in how to cope with being alone. It is an invitation to build a home inside yourself, a sanctuary that no one can ever take from you. It is the journey of coming home. The opposite of loneliness is not connection. It is intimacy. And the most important intimacy you will ever build is with yourself. The ache you feel in that crowded room is not a sign that you are broken. It is a symptom. A quiet, persistent alarm bell telling you a profound truth. You are lonely because you are not home for yourself. You have, in the most subtle and profound way, abandoned the one person you can never leave. This is not a conscious choice. It is a survival strategy we learn in childhood. From a very young age, we become brilliant detectives of belonging. We learn which parts of our true, messy, authentic selves are celebrated, and which parts are judged, shamed, or ignored. And so we make a tragic but necessary calculation. We hide the parts that are not welcome. We exile our vulnerability, our quietness, our strange creativity, our sadness. And in their place, we build a character, a competent, agreeable, often charming character who knows how to navigate the world and win approval. Carl Jung called this character the persona. It is our social mask, and it is the greatest source of our loneliness. Let me tell you about a woman we will call Eleanor. To the outside world, Eleanor was the opposite of lonely. Her life was a whirlwind of social events, brunches, and book clubs. She was the one everyone called for advice, the reliable, funny, always put together friend. Her calendar was a fortress against silence. But her deepest, most secret terror was Sunday evening, when the plans were over and the phone stopped ringing, and there was nothing left but the quiet hum of the refrigerator. In those moments, a terrifying, hollow feeling would rise up in her chest, the feeling she had been running from all week. She felt utterly, terrifyingly alone. For years, Eleanor believed her problem was that she needed to be busier, to find more friends, to find the right partner. But that was a misdiagnosis. Eleanor's problem was not her social life. It was her inner life. Her brilliant, successful social persona was starving her inner child. The quiet, sensitive, creative little girl inside of her was sitting alone in a dark room, waiting for Eleanor herself to come home. The person she was running from was her own soul. This is the paradox. You are most lonely when you are performing. When you are wearing a mask, your true self is completely hidden. And when your true self is hidden, it cannot be seen. And to be unseen is the very definition of loneliness. The loneliest place in the world is inside a persona that is not you. And here is the most important, most compassionate truth of all. You did not build this mask out of vanity. You built it out of necessity. That little child inside you learned very early on that its survival depended on being accepted. So it created a representative, a diplomat, a character to send out into the world to negotiate for love and safety. This was an act of profound intelligence and self-preservation. But the strategy that saved you as a child is the very thing that is imprisoning you as an adult. You have become so identified with your ambassador that you have forgotten the beautiful, tender, and authentic kingdom they represent. You become a leaky bucket. You pour all of your psychic energy into maintaining the mask, into performing for others, into seeking validation from the outside world, because there is a profound emptiness on the inside. And the more you seek it outside, the more you reinforce the belief that it is not available inside. It is the most exhausting cycle in the world. So let's just pause here together. Just for a moment, I invite you to call to mind that feeling, that quiet, hollow ache of loneliness. Maybe you feel it right now. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to push it away. Just acknowledge it. Where do you feel it in your body? In your chest? In your stomach? This feeling is not your enemy. It is a messenger. It is the cry of your own abandoned inner child calling for you to finally come home. It is a sacred summons. It is pointing you away from the noise of the crowd and toward a quiet inner doorway you may have never opened. But what if that empty room you're so afraid of wasn't a prison? What if it was a sanctuary? What if the silence you're running from is not the sound of absence, but the sound of a different kind of fullness waiting to be discovered? Solitude is not an empty room. It is a full one. It is full of the one person you have been longing to meet, yourself. But the journey across the bridge from loneliness to solitude is the most courageous one you will ever take. Because the first step onto that bridge requires you to stop running. And the moment you stop running, everything you have been running from will be waiting for you. The anxiety, the emptiness, the deep primal fear of being unseen and unloved. Our modern world teaches us 1,000 ways to distract ourselves from this discomfort. The phone, the endless scroll, the next series to binge watch, the next task on the to-do list. These are not just habits, they are anesthetics for the soul. The first, most courageous act on this journey inward is the willingness to feel the discomfort of your own silence without immediately reaching for a drug. And this is where the real work begins. It is the work of transforming your relationship with that feeling. It is the sacred act of reparenting. The lonely feeling that arises when you are alone is the voice of your wounded inner child, the part of you that still feels small, abandoned, and terrified. For years, your adult self has done what your original caregivers might have done. It has ignored the child's cries. It has told it to be quiet, to stop being so needy. It has left the child alone in the dark room of your psyche and gone out to a party. The solution is to do the one thing you have been avoiding your entire life. It is to turn around. It is to walk back to that dark room, open the door, and sit down on the floor with that terrified child. It is to finally offer the one thing that child has always been crying out for, your own loving presence. Let's go back to Eleanor, the woman whose life was a fortress against silence. One Sunday evening, feeling the familiar ghost of loneliness begin to creep in, she decides to try something different. Instead of immediately calling a friend or turning on the TV, she just sits. And the feeling comes. A wave of panic, a tightness in her chest, the voice that screams, "Do something, anyone, now!" She wants to run. But this time, she stays. And she tries a practice I am going to invite you to learn right now. It is the simplest and most powerful act of self-love. She places a hand over her own heart, and she speaks to the feeling inside her, not as an enemy to be banished, but as a small child to be comforted. Silently, she says, "I'm here. I know you feel lonely and scared. I'm not going to leave you. We can feel this together. I am not going anywhere." Pause here with me and just imagine that. Imagine offering that quiet, unconditional presence to the most frightened part of your own being. What does that feel like? This is not a mental trick. This is an act of profound psychological repair. As Eleanor sits there, her hand on her heart, something begins to shift. The panic doesn't vanish, but it changes. The frantic, high-pitched scream of anxiety softens into a low, mournful sob of grief. And for the first time in years, she cries. Not because she is sad about her Sunday evening, but because she is finally grieving the little girl who was left alone for so long. And after the tears comes a quietness she has never felt before. It is not the empty, terrifying quiet of absence. It is the calm, gentle quiet of presence. She is not alone. She is with herself for the first time. This is the art of building the bridge. It is built moment by moment every time you choose to turn toward your own discomfort with compassion instead of away from it with distraction. You are not just coping with loneliness, you are actively healing the root of it. You are becoming the wise, loving, and stable parent your inner child has always been waiting for. You are patching the hole in the leaky bucket, not with more water from the outside, but with your own presence from the inside. And the more you practice this, the more the inner child begins to trust that you will not abandon it again. The frantic need for external validation begins to quiet down. The silence is no longer a threat. It begins to feel like a sanctuary. But what happens after you've built this bridge? What does a life rooted in this newfound solitude actually look like? How does it change not just your inner world, but your relationships with everyone else?
The greatest paradox of the inner journey is this. The more you learn to be with yourself, the deeper your connections with others will become. When you are no longer running from your own emptiness, you finally have something real to offer. You offer your fullness. The practice of solitude is not an escape from the world. It is the act of cultivating an inner sanctuary so that you can engage with the world from a place of strength, not from a place of need. Solitude is not an empty space to be filled. It is an inner wellspring to be drawn from. When you have built this inner sanctuary, the silence is no longer threatening. It becomes your greatest ally. It is the space where the frantic noise of your persona finally quiets down. It is the space where you can hear the whispers of your intuition, the voice of the self. It is the space where your own creativity, once choked by the need for external validation, can finally begin to breathe and to play. It is where you regenerate. It is where you come home. So, how do we actively cultivate this relationship with ourself? How do we furnish this inner sanctuary? We do it through small, sacred rituals of devotion to our own soul. One of the most powerful practices was created by the writer Julia Cameron. She calls it the artist date. It is a simple, non-negotiable commitment. Once a week, you schedule a date with yourself. You go alone. It might be a walk in a park you've never been to, a solo visit to a museum, an hour in a quiet coffee shop with a journal and no phone. The purpose of this date is not productivity. It is not to solve a problem. It is simply to listen, to be good company for your own inner child, your own soul. It is an act of saying your desires, your quiet interests, your need for beauty and play matter to me. Let's return to Eleanor one last time. After her breakthrough, she begins this practice. Her first artist date is terrifying. She goes to a small art gallery alone, and she feels the eyes of everyone on her. The old story screams, "They think you're a loser. You have no friends. But she stays. She breathes. She puts a hand on her heart and whispers, "I'm here. We are safe." And she looks at the paintings, really looks at them. And a quiet, forgotten part of her, the little girl who loved to draw, begins to awaken. She leaves the gallery not feeling lonely, but feeling full. Another powerful practice for our modern world is the digital sunset. It is the conscious choice to designate a time each evening, say 9 p.m., when all screens are turned off: the phone, the laptop, the television. This creates a sacred, protected space for your own thoughts and feelings to emerge without the constant IV drip of external information and distraction. In this quiet space, you might read a book. You might listen to music. You might just sit and look out the window. You are creating a container for solitude. You are inviting yourself to speak. As Eleanor practices these things, a profound change occurs. She still loves her friends. She still enjoys a lively party. But she no longer needs them to save her from herself. A quiet evening alone is no longer a failure. It is a gift. She has become her own safe harbor. And now, the final, most beautiful paradox unfolds. When you no longer need other people to fill your emptiness, you become profoundly attractive. Not in a superficial way, but in a soulful way. Your friendships and relationships transform. Because you are no longer coming to them from a place of hunger, a needy child demanding to be fed. You are coming to them from a place of fullness, a wise adult who has a beautiful, nourishing meal to share. You can listen more deeply to their struggles because you are not secretly hoping they will fix yours. You can celebrate their joys more genuinely because their success is not a reflection on your lack. You are free to love them for who they are, not for what you need them to be. You have become a sanctuary, not just for yourself, but for others. This is the ultimate freedom. It is the quiet confidence of a tree with deep roots. It does not need the other trees to hold it up. It simply stands, grounded in its own being. And in doing so, it becomes part of a forest. Pause and ask yourself, what would it feel like to come to a relationship, a friendship, a family gathering from a place of fullness instead of a place of hunger? That is the peace and power that solitude offers you. It is not a retreat from life. It is the path to the very heart of it. But once we have learned to be comfortable in our own quiet company, once we have made peace with the serious, deep parts of our soul, a new energy often wants to emerge. An energy that is lighter, more mischievous, one that can laugh at our own self-importance. What happens when the soul is finally ready to play?
And so the journey home is not a journey across 1,000 miles. It is the journey of a single courageous step inward. It is the end of the frantic search, the end of the exhausting performance. It is the quiet revolution of choosing your own company and finding it to be more than enough. This is the great hidden teaching of Carl Jung's work. The journey of individuation is not about becoming someone better.
It is about finally coming home to the person you have always been, beneath all the noise and all the masks. The person who was waiting for you in the quiet room you were so afraid to enter. The paradox is that once you have built this inner sanctuary, once you have found this deep well of self-companionship, you do not isolate yourself from the world. You are finally free to truly connect with it. You no longer come to others as a beggar with an empty cup asking them to fill you. You come as a host with a full pot of tea, inviting them to share in your warmth. Your relationships become chosen, not needed. Your friendships are born from a desire to share your world, not to escape from your own. You can listen with a quiet heart because you are not waiting for your turn to speak to prove you exist. You can offer your presence as a gift because you are no longer trying to take anything. The hole in the bucket has been patched, and your own life force, once leaking out in a desperate search for connection, now fills you from within. This is not a state of perfection. You will still feel sad sometimes. You will still feel the normal human need for connection, but you will have a home to return to, an unshakable center, a quiet inner knowing that even when you are alone, you are never truly lonely, because you are finally with yourself. You have become your own sanctuary. So I invite you this week to a small act of intentional solitude. It is not a punishment, it is a pilgrimage. Schedule just 15 minutes in your calendar and label it a date with myself. During that time, do something simple that requires no screens and no productivity. Make a cup of your favorite tea. Listen to an album you loved as a teenager. Simply sit by a window and watch the world go by. Your only goal is to be good company for yourself. In the comments below, I invite you to share what you chose to do on your sacred date. Let us create a library of ideas, a celebration of the quiet, courageous act of coming home. But once we have learned to sit with the quiet king or queen of our own inner world, once we have made peace with our own seriousness, a new character often wants to step onto the stage. A character that is lighter, more mischievous, one that reminds us not to take our own grand journey too seriously. In our next video, we will meet this divine disruptor, this sacred agent of chaos and humor, as we explore the profound wisdom of the playful trickster.